Hello, and welcome to Critical Weight Theory, where sometimes I look into the lives of legendary musicians whose work shaped the world of music. And today I'm exploring the life and legacy of one of the most influential gospel blues musicians of all time, Blind Willie Johnson. And if you've ever heard the song Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground, which is actually an instrumental, but if you've ever heard that raw, haunting sound, you know it is the unmistakable slide guitar of Blind Willie Johnson, and the vibe is really an amazing and grand thing. Born around 1897 in Pendleton, Texas, Johnson became one of the most revered figures in early blues. Though he was never widely celebrated in his lifetime, his influence rippled across generations, shaping blues, gospel, and even rock music. So, what was his early life like? What was his story? Blind Willie Johnson's early years remain somewhat mysterious. Some accounts suggest he was born blind, while others claim he lost his sight due to an injury as a child. Despite this, he mastered the guitar, developing a distinctive style that blended gospel, blues, and traditional folk music. His playing often featured a metal slide or a knife, and it created a deeply emotional and soulful sound. And you could say it was the spirit of the blues that was contained within either the metal slide or the knife. And Johnson's music was rooted in faith, yet carried the grit and sorrow of the blues. His song, If I Had My Way, I'd Tear the Building Down, also known as Samson and Delilah, reflects the storytelling tradition of spirituals, while his Jesus Make Up My Dying Bed, later adapted as In My Time of Dying, has been covered by legends like Led Zeppelin. One of his most famous recordings, as I mentioned, was Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground. It's an instrumental piece that conveys deep emotion without a single lyric. You know how some instrumentals out there they might have at least one word that they say, like the song Tequila, for example. But no, this one is completely devoid of lyrical content, and it's still a powerful piece of music. The combination of a slide guitar and wordless moans paints a picture of human suffering and longing that transcends language. So it does feature his voice, but technically no lyrics. And this recording was so powerful that NASA actually included it on the Golden Record aboard the Voyager spacecraft in 1977 as a representation of the human experience. So he had a short but powerful recording career, as was the case of plenty of bluesmen. Between 1927 and 1930, Johnson recorded only 30 tracks for Columbia Records, yet his impact was hard to measure. Blues critic Edward Niles wrote in 1928 that Johnson's violent, tortured, and abysmal shouts and groans and his inspired guitar playing, they were uh, they were significant. I'll just put it that way. But his music resonated deeply, and it echoes, you know, until today. And it can be heard in Mississippi Fred McDowell's "You Gotta Move," later made famous by the Rolling Stones. The influence is there, and he had hardships during his life as well. Despite his talent, Blind Willie Johnson never found widespread fame during his lifetime. He lived in poverty and passed away in 1945 after suffering from pneumonia, reportedly made worse by living in the ruins of his house after it had burned down. However, his legacy is obviously living on, If it wasn't, would I even be talking about him today? His work influenced generations of musicians like Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, and of course Led Zeppelin, as I mentioned before. In 2010, his recording of Dark Was the Night, Cold Was the Ground was selected by the Library of Congress for the National Recording Registry, and it was recognized as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. So, Blind Willie Johnson's music, though filled with sorrow, it's still there as a bit of resilience and spirituality that people can tap into when they want to listen to it. And it's, of course, been preserved on the internet as well. You can listen to it on YouTube, for example. His fusion of gospel and blues continues to inspire musicians and touch listeners' souls to this day. His recordings remind us that music can capture the deepest aspects of the human condition: pain, longing, faith, and redemption, all without necessarily even using words, just the sounds and a little bit of a human voice here and there. So, thank you for listening to this episode. And if you enjoyed anything that I had to say, don't forget to subscribe, click like, maybe review this episode or the podcast overall, and share this episode with fellow music lovers. And until next time, keep the music alive.